Hello interwebs, welcome to Let's Fix Computers. Yes, it is a Fix Computers, even though this is going to be mostly unbuilding and then building again. I've got here, this computer has come in today. It's traveled in from the London area, and it's got a bit of an interesting problem with it. This is an AM5 system. It's got an Asus Crosshair X670e Hero motherboard in it. And that's a lot of numbers and letters, but I'll show you in a minute. And it's one of those motherboards that's got the fancy little screen on it that lights up, which is super cool, but unfortunately, the screen has been dinked. I think a graphics card got knocked into it or something like that. We'll go into that in a moment. And it's the screen has just got a little dink on it that's just cracked it slightly, and it's just unfortunately completely spoiled the look of the board. And it's kind of an inexpensive board. These boards are like £800, I think, £700, around that area. So it's such a shame. And normally there would be not really a lot you can do about this. But the customer called me up and told me about this. I'm like, I mean, you could replace the screen, but good luck finding a replacement screen. And he said, well, actually, I have found a replacement screen. I've got one on the way directly from Asus. And I don't know how he did it. We'll find out in a minute. But as it happens, we've got the replacement screen. So we're going to take the motherboard out and we're going to swap the screens over. And hopefully we can talk a bit more about what you can do if you're stuck in the same situation. So let's roll the intro, and then I'm going to get this thing laid down on the table. We'll take the motherboard out and we'll have a closer look. Right, so the spec of this computer, it's got a 7900X in it. So Ryzen 9, well, AM5 Ryzen 9 7900X. I don't know why I'm saying that so clunkily. I'm just not used to saying 7000 with an AMD. But yeah, so 7900X in there. We've got a RTX 4090 here. So this is the big boy with all of the power ever. This one's the MSI Supreme. So it's the big boy cooler as well. And what originally happened was just during the build of this PC, when fitting the AIO, customer had the radiator sitting on the side and they went to move the pump. And as what happens with AIOs, these hoses have got a little bit of flex, but if you move the pump, it's going to drag the rad, and the radiator just went onto it. And if we take a closer look down here, you can just see how it's just dinked the screen on the IO panel here. And because this has got a chrome finish on it, it's horridly visible. It's not one of those marks where you just sort of rub your finger on it and be like, whoops, let's just hope that's not visible. You can't not see it. It's such a shame. So this is what we're going to address. And we have a new panel to go on here. This entire Crosshair LCD panel is going to get replaced. So what we'll do is we'll start out just by getting the motherboard out of this thing. And we're going to do a quick tear down, fast tear, and get the board out. And then we'll have a look at the spare part and we can see how to do this. This shouldn't be particularly difficult. The hardest part of this job will have been obtaining the parts. And in case you're watching this and just going, I just need to know where to get the screen from, check the chapters. I will chapter this video, so you can just skip forward to the bit where we talk about who you need to talk to at Asus to try and get this. No idea whether you'll be able to go through the same steps, but I can at least explain the steps that we went through to get this, or rather the customer did, because credit to them. I would have given up on this if I'm honest. So let's start taking this to bits. Right, so normally big graphics cards like these are kind of a pain to get out because you can't get to the release catch. This is one of these new motherboards with one of the new fancy ejecto buttons. So I'm going to try this out. This is my first time. I'm pressing it. Is it working? Oh, there we go. We good? We good. Good grief. This is actually my first time encountering a 4090, and the first time Caradog from the podcast brought in a 3090, I was like, that should be illegal. And now we've just got a whole new level of absurdity with these things. This is a brick. It's a very pretty brick, but it's still a brick. I'm going to very carefully put this to one side. Right, so now all we've got to do is take this motherboard out, so I can just pop out all of the connectors going to the board, and we should just be able to lift this out without having to do a significant amount of deconstruction on this PC. Unfortunately, we are going to have to take the AIO off, but again, we don't need to take the radiator out, so that's not going to cause us too much trouble either. Oh boy, no, that's not happening. Nope. AIO is coming out. There was an attempt. It's always hard to tell with big motherboards like this because the board itself is so heavy that when you pick it up, you're like, is that a cable attached or is it just that heavy? So, right, so we've got this board out of the computer now, and as aforementioned, this is an Asus Republic of Gamers Crosshair X670e Hero. So the Crosshair motherboards, they used to be numerical. You used to just have like a Crosshair 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. However, they've actually started calling it by the chipset name now, which is good because one of the things that I don't like about the ROG boards is that if you say to someone, I've got a Crosshair 7, it's like, what's that? I don't know. Whereas now they're actually calling it a Crosshair X670. That is great because now you know, okay, that means it's an X670 chipset, which means it's AMD and it's an X670. So they're not named anymore, and I quite like that because it means that when you tell someone it's a Crosshair X670e, that actually has some meaning to it. So kind of neat that that's done. So the bit in question is obviously this this cover plate here. So this is kind of it's an RGB LCD effect thing. It doesn't display data, to my knowledge. So it's quite a simple device, but again, because it's got this mirror effect, that little dink on it is incredibly noticeable. So what the customer did after they damaged it, they sent an email over to the Asus warranty claims department. Not because they were going to try and claim this on warranty, but just simply so they could try and get hold of someone in the repair area of the company. And they said, look, I've damaged this, want to buy the part, what do? And then Asus said, okay, well, we have a partner who deals with the spare parts for us and handles that distribution per se. And that partner was Zand Parts or Zand Parts. And so a email address was then given. So the customer then spoke to Zand Parts and again said, I'm looking for this component. And there was a little bit of a back and forth involving some pictures while they narrowed down exactly what part they were after. Like, was it the IO shield? And they said, no, specifically this bit here. And they turned around and said, okay, we can get that. We have to get it from Asus, which obviously means we're coming around in a circle. However, the point is Asus are manufacturing, but they don't handle the distribution of the parts as such. So they said they can get the part, they've got to order it directly from Asus, and the cost of the part, which I've got right here, here is our spare one, it's got some cellophane on the top of it, so it's basically just this, was approximately £55. Now, for what is essentially a bit of plastic with some RGB on it, that sounds like daylight robbery. However, when you actually consider the fact that we were ordering a very specific part for another part, and this is a one-off order directly from the manufacturer, including all of the distribution, taxes, packaging, postage, handling, shipping, etc., etc. You know, that's just how much it's going to cost, basically. So you know, when the customer said how much that was, I was just like, ouch, but also I'm not surprised. So it is what it is. However, we've got it. So now all we have to do is we've just got to take some of the back parts off of this and change this out. And the only other issue was that it took forever to obtain it, because not only just shipping from China, but also just chasing them to actually get the order pushed through. So if you're trying to do this yourself, you expect to need to be persistent. You'll need to send emails, you'll need to follow up, you'll need to chase people to get it done. But it is evidence that if you need something like this, it's possible. And again, £55, but the board itself at the time of purchase was £540. So all things considered, you know, like if you don't want to have a dink on that on your lovely shiny new computer that cost you a fortune to build. So 50 quid just to get that sorted, it's not the end of the world really. So that's that. So if you're trying to get hold of these, start with the warranty department, tell them you're looking to purchase parts, and hopefully they should be able to put you through to Xiand Parts. You may even be able to request and say, I'm aware that you have a parts supplier called Xiand Parts, and that might grease the wheels so the person actually starts putting you through to the right departments. That's about all I can give you. Can't guarantee you'll have the same amount of luck, but good luck if you're on your way. So let's actually get this swapped out now. So how do we get this bit off? Well, I'm going to start by having a look around the back. So for a motherboard like this, if you look on the back, you can see we've got a million screws all over the back of the board. And these are all holding on all of the metalwork of this thing. So we're going to need to take some of those off. So now I just need to figure out which ones need to come out. I think we're going to be removing the entire I/O shield, and I think that also involves removing the VRM heatsink here. And that means taking out that bit as well, because we've got a heat pipe connecting the two VRM heatsinks together. So this whole thing is going to come off as a single unit, and then I think we're going to disassemble that further. So let's start out by unscrewing basically everything above the halfway mark up here. So I'm going to get a smaller screwdriver, and I'm just going to start zapping out screws. Right, so that was 5 screws I've taken off there. I think everything here downwards is going to be for other heat sinks. So is there anything else I've missed? Yes, there is. That's the Wi-Fi card, so we don't need that. However, nope, there's no washers on the other side here, so that's also fine. I'm going to pop out these 2 wireless receivers. So theoretically, I should be able to just gently ease off the entire I/O shield and VRM heatsinks now. Let's see how this goes. And just like that. All right, the I/O shield is staying in place. We've got something coming off though. There'll be a wire. Yep. Let's just flip that over. There's the wire connecting it up. Boop. There we go. So that was all a single unit, and the I/O shield, that is... So then the I/O shield, that has got these tin plates coming around the back of the ports there on one end and the other. So you would bend those out, and that would then unclip and remove. So that's just clipped on effectively. However, we don't need to remove that, so that's fine. And while we're here, just with that removed, you can see all of the power stages for this board. It's a very pretty board, this. Those are very odd inductors as well. Vertical mount inductors. I've not seen those before. Or, you know, in this style. That's kind of neat. Is there anything else interesting to see here? I don't think so. That's fine. We'll keep going. So if you needed to go deeper, we can do the same thing with all of this metalwork as well. Again, just take screws off the back and things will start lifting off. And then looking at the back of the VRM heatsink itself, there's a thermal pad for the power stages along each length and also for the inductors. To my knowledge, the inductors don't get hugely hot. However, they do put out some heat, so it's obviously worth just putting a bit more thermal relief there. And then finally, this little weird strip here, that's a grounding strip. So that's going down to bare metal, and it's just making sure that all of the heat sinks are all common together. So now we need to remove some more screws in order to take off the cover plate. It's quite likely that they use this same heatsink on a couple of the Crosshair boards, and they change this plate depending on which model it is, a la whether it's the Hero or the Genie or the Extreme. Although I think the Extreme has a different heatsink. But anyway, so let's push the board to one side. So now we'll take out these wide flat screws. And I'm going to get a mat as well, because I don't need to worry about scratching the old one. We don't care about that, but I don't want to damage the new one. Right, does that just want to pop out now? No. Ooh, there's some movement there. Let's have a look at the new one to get some help here. There's the 4 screws. There's something there, and could that be a clip or just a mark? I think this is going to pop off. I think it just needs a little bit of a pry. So let me grab a prying tool. Yeah, there we go. There's a bit of tape or something under that. Ah, interesting. There's tape under the screw holes. That's how it was holding down. But there we go. There's our old broken one. Right, so now it's just as simple as just popping that guy in there and putting the screws in. I'll leave the cellophane on it for now, just so there's no risk of scuffing it. The problem, one of the things that I dislike about stuff like this is that like obviously there was no defense against a chunk of metal falling on it. You know, that's going to break stuff. But also you need to be very careful when cleaning things, because these are often very soft plastic, and if you're not careful, while cleaning them, even with a soft cloth, it's very easy to just leave scuff marks. So you've got to be super careful when cleaning these up as well. And for that reason, I'll very much be leaving the peel there right up until the last moment. Good, now we'll put the screws back in. And we're more or less going on to reassembly now. So I'm going to put these screws in, and then I'll stick the VRM heatsink back onto the motherboard. All we've got to do is just connect that, that RGB cable to the back of it, and then we're there. Right, we're about done now. The board is in, so now we've just got to drop in the graphics card, hook all of these monster power cables up, little bit of wiping on some shiny surfaces, and we're ready to turn this on and see if it works. Here comes the boy. Hello, boy. Here he is. Right, I've committed to the peel on our new cover. And so now before I start putting the side panel on, I've just wiped off fingerprints from the pump head and stuff like that. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use some multi-surface polish, and I'm going to spray directly onto the cloth. Just a little bit, not much. And I'm just going to use just one finger just to go over those shiny objects. And that will just put an anti-static coat on that so the dust won't cling to it. Because you can wipe these down, and obviously once it's in the case, no one's going to touch it, but dust will just fall out of fans and things like that and just land on there, and you'll just get a speckling on everything, and that is really annoying. And I'm going to do the same thing to our new cover. As mentioned previously, I'm going to be very careful when wiping this because I don't want to scuff it up. But I'm just going to give that just a quick once over, because as soon as we remove that cellophane, that's going to leave static on there. So it will just attract dust. So I'm just gently wiping that down, not using any meaningful pressure. Dry bit of the cloth, and just gently bring that back up to a shine. And that should help just avoid dust landing on that the moment it's put up in the desk. And now we'll do the side window as well. So regulars will know this rigmarole, but I'll say it again just for the new people. So I've put the window on upside down, so I've got a flat surface to lean on. And I'm just going to use ordinary glass cleaner, just household glass cleaner from the supermarket will do fine. And we'll wipe this down. And this stuff is going to clean the glass and take all of the gunk and just schmutz off of it. And then after that, I'll go over it with the multi-surface polish, which will leave the protective layer on it. And then you'll get that super, super shiny finish that will try and reject fingerprints. It doesn't last forever, but it just means that it'll be nice and smooth for when you at least put the side panel on. Right, we had some problems getting this thing to start. It didn't want to post at first, and we got hung up on DRAM postcode errors. However, I reseated the RAM and then it was fine. So obviously the RAM had just become a little bit unsettled where I'd taken the motherboard out. Probably a little bit of motherboard flex or something like that. So reseated the RAM and now it's come good. And so as you can see, everything is now working. And so you can see what this thing actually does now. It's actually really interesting. I hadn't seen it in advance, but it's not an LCD screen, but I would refer to this as an LED matrix. So it's got sets of LEDs, of RGB LEDs in it, and a very clever light pipe system, or very clever polarizers in front of it. So when it turns on certain LEDs, different patterns are illuminated on the front of it. So it can do this LED sequencing to show up like ROG and Hero and the Republic of Gamers eye logo and stuff like that. And it can do all of this light show without actually being an LCD screen, which is remarkably clever for how simple this thing actually is. Obviously, it's a shame that you can't program it, but you can have it appear specific colors. Using Armory Crate, you can have it appear set colors, or you can have it do any of the other standard Aura Sync RGB sequences. But you can't have it display other text, or for example, although it's arguable how useful that is anyway. At any rate, I think that's a very neat effect to have on the board. So we've got that replaced, and now it doesn't have a horrible great dink in it, and we're all finished. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you guys found that kind of interesting, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.